Hey guys, Joe Schmo here. Um, just want to talk about some stuff that's been on my mind. Um, my wife and I are about to go to Japan for a month. I've been working this new engineering job for a little over a year. I mean, I've moved 4 times in the last 2 years just due to various circumstances. I started off 2025 with no pets and a wife of 6 months, and now we have 3 cats. We kind of added those as we went through time, starting in January. And I love all the stuff that's going on. I think it's really good. But I just want to talk about like change. I feel like I'm experiencing a lot of it, and I think that it would be good to share about it. Um, and just my thoughts on the way life goes, at least as a 25-year-old. Um, I feel like everything changes. It's always changing. The earth is constantly spinning, the seasons are always changing. Every single thing your eyes see are always passing through time. It's aging, decaying, growing, whatever stage it's in. And everything is kind of approaching its end, I guess. Not like a cynical way, more like life's beautiful. It starts, it ends. It's kind of, it's pretty cool. It's not something you can stop, or it's not something you can worry about. Change is something to be embraced and interacted with, and people are always changing too in some way, shape, or form. Kind of how I mentioned earlier, you can be growing, aging, learning new skills, going through processes, learning new emotions, all sorts of things like that, right? You know, it's like you're either intentional about it or it happens to you subconsciously and or passively, I guess. It's like someone who wants to get better at public speaking is going to practice at it, right? They're going to, you know, write a speech, rehearse it. They're going to intentionally change the way they view themselves on a stage or the way they view the audience in an attempt to become more proficient at sharing their words. That's very intentional change, I think. And like someone who gets a new pet, like myself, or has a child, I'm sure you experience, at least for a brief or long amount of time, a new sleep schedule where you are now, you know, awake late into the night, early into the morning, whatever that would be. That's like a passive change on someone, right? Or you could decide to eat better, and that's going to affect your energy, or if you exercise more, and that's pretty intentional. Like another passive one that everyone experiences at some point is like when you experience the loss of a loved one, you're going to feel probably some change in the way you look at life. There's probably going to be some realizations of maybe things you've taken for granted, things of the sort, right? And it's like, yeah, change is just always around every corner. It's past every horizon. Some last forever, some get changed back right away. I think examples of that can be found in nature, maybe. Like you look at a tree and it sheds its leaves every fall and they grow back every spring. Um, while maybe like a cloud will accumulate and condense in the sky and rain's going to pour out, but that same cloud is never going to be formed again. You know, I think it's clear that life is just so full of change and all these processes, and they all just flow through the tracks of time, the passing moments, days, and years. No one can even recount all the change that's happened in their own life. You can maybe pick out the bigger ones that stand out to you, and no one's going to be able to list all the changes they think may happen as the universe, goes towards its ending. There's just no way to know all that stuff, nor should we really worry about it. So I think what I've kind of been thinking about is like, how should we as people approach change, and like, how do we seek it, and how do we handle it whenever it's happening to us against our will? And it's like, I think it's a matter that's definitely case by case. There's not like a, oh, do this, oh, do that. So I would say you definitely have to be passive in some scenarios. You have to be active in others. I think a good example about this stuff of like looking at what's outside your control and your control and how you deal with it. It's like I grew up wrestling, and that could be goofy. It's just a sport, and I'm just gonna share some anecdotal stuff, but it really is like, you know, you learn a lot about, I think, stuff like that when it's just you versus someone else. And of course, there's a set of rules, but really it's like a battle of wills most of the time. And I'll kind of circle back to that, but it's like, you know, for every part in wrestling that's in your control, there's an equal amount of things that aren't. You know the rules. You can work to be in what weight class you want. You can wrestle however you want. And typically, at least once a match, you're going to pick a position to start a period in. But you can't control how hard your opponent works. You can't control their style. You can't control any physical traits they would have or the calls. Like the ref is going to do that. So what would be key in that scenario? Like many, I think, good coaches would say that a great wrestler is one that knows how to better move the match into their zone, you know, better their circumstances. I think, you know, you have to act in a way that changes the odds in your favor. It's going to look like working hard outside of the match a lot, right? You're going to be grinding to make yourself as good as possible so you could, you know, have more ease during the match. And during the match, you have to be able to roll with the flow, adapt, handle whatever your opponent's doing, and not really let them have their way. And, you know, this is just anecdotal for me. And it's like, there's like, I think at the end of the day, though, it comes down to you experience something, you embrace it, but you don't let it rule over you. You know, whenever you start letting another person or a situation or, you know, anything in life, I know that, like, you know, finances are huge. You deal with relationships that linger, all sorts of these things that people can deal with. And it's like, how do those not rule over you? Well, I think that regardless of how drawn out that was, I don't mean to say you can will whatever you want into existence, but I really do think it comes down to, you know, what your will is during your change. And if you're willing for yourself to be steadfast and at peace, then I think that is something you can arrive at or continually fight for. And that takes, of course, discipline, something I need to work at. But there's just something about resting in peace and letting life wash over you and smooth you out. And I see this in practice all the time, of course, or read about it. And I'm just 25 with ideas, but I'd like to think that it's good to start now. I like to think of, again, like I'd say natural examples are really cool to me. When you think about a river and how over time it's going to increasingly just meander larger and larger as the water kind of cuts the outsides of the river faster and erodes it more, and you get these big, beautiful curves. And the river doesn't fight against the change, right? It's like time and water pass through it, and over time it's just going to open up and continue to make those curves, and it just ages into a beautiful thing. Or when you look at like redwood trees on the west coast, they start off as a seedling like any other tree would, but over time they can get up to 20 feet in diameter, like their trunks, right? It's like they didn't do anything, they just existed and let time build them up into what they were meant to be. And I think that that's a message to be had for people out there, you know, seeking change or that are just going through change. It's like life goes on, these processes will build you. I think it's all about wanting to see the other side and having a positive like outlook on what you're going through. I mean, of course, a human is not going to have an opportunity to grow 20 feet in diameter, like, or just sit there and let that happen to them. But I think it's the picture of it that really, you know, helps the idea. I think there's merit and there's beauty in the contentment that you find when you just, you know, decide to sit in, when you decide to be present, and when you're going through whatever it is you may be going through. I'm not just trying to emphasize this idea of this passivity or even laziness, idleness, but I think in this day and age, especially with all the words of passion thrown around and this idea that you should go and do what you want and get yours, people are so antsy to grab at everything in their reach. stretching yourself thin, and actually, like, I think eliminating a lot of opportunities for you to grow. Um, I think all the decisions that life throws at you are easier to make when you're in a calm state, when you're focused on the peace and maintaining it and just being steadfast, right? It's a conscious choice to make these things happen. Um, and I'm just preaching to myself, honestly. Like, I'm projecting a little bit of all the things I go through, all the desires I struggle with, and how I want to and have, like, processed them to work away from them. Just give yourself space. Back up as much as you can to see as much as you can. Get that wide lens view on your situation and breathe a little bit. Give yourself space. Think and use your prefrontal cortex before you decide to make a decision. I want to kind of taper off this by just encouraging you to say that, like, life is what you make of it, I think, and there's a way of loving the fate that's behind it and just kind of trusting this process. uh, your perspective really is your reality. I think when you're seeking peace, when you're seeking calm, I think you'll find it. And if you're just envisioning yourself in it, I think it will become your reality more so, regardless of what you're going through. Um, take time. Take time and be patient with the tools that you're given over time. And I do think that God kind of puts us through things and helps us to process things in a way that we end up coming out the other side more equipped and more ready for what the future holds. Um, choose to love life, because at some point a factor outside of all of our controls is going to come for all of us, meaning we're all going to die, we're all going to pass away, it's going to be over. People believe many different things about what may happen after. Truthfully, I think that faith in Jesus Christ will ultimately deliver you through salvation, and he will save you from all your wrongdoings and sins, shall you place your faith in him. Peace and love. Thanks for being here.